Hi, my name is John, and I'm a Nickelback fan. And if I'm being honest with myself, which I try to be, I have been for the past 20 years.
The complaints about Nickelback aren't unusual. Their songs are formulaic.
But I think sometimes people want to hear vacuous, dumb shit.
As soon as the Canadian rockers announced their documentary, I knew my ass was in the seat, just say the word. So I pre-bought tickets for myself and my wife at not just any theater. Sorry, Regal, I have higher standards. I headed out on a rainy Wednesday evening to see Nickelback's documentary with a group of hardcore, semi-drunk fans at a local Arthouse cinema because Nickelback deserves only the best. So let's recount my experience, the highs, the lows, and all of the drunken fangirls screaming in between. What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. My name is John. Be sure to press a like and subscribe if you haven't already, and let's get into reviewing the Nickelback documentary. I know you guys have been desperate for this one, so I watched it kind of so you don't have to, but also maybe you should watch it too if they put it on streaming.
Nobody picks up a guitar to be in the most hated band in the world.
They were part of cancel culture before we had a name for it.
We all know Nickelback have been the butt of the joke for a long time, but the tide started to shift somewhere around the late 2010s. I made a few videos positively talking about the band and saying that even though there's not many albums of theirs that I really feel a strong attachment to, at least not all the way through, they have loads of hits for a reason. I think they're a really catchy, turn off your brain and just vibe the fuck out type of group.
Did you want to come and see all the good folks that showed up tonight? Light them up!
Let me say a few nice things about the doc first before I get into some of the, I think, valid criticisms that I have about this, because the second half in particular just felt kind of empty and padded out. What I liked is that the first half was pretty well paced. They were following a formula that we've seen in music docs many times before. It reminded me kind of a back and forth. The Foo Fighters put out that documentary around the release of their album Wasting Light, and this doc doesn't hold a candle. Do not get my words twisted there, but I do think that there is a familiarity in the way that they were going through the album cycles, talking about the drama, some of the health issues behind the scenes, and exploring that. They got off track after all the right reasons in 2005.
We try and laugh it off. You can laugh off about 90% of it, and some of it hurts.
It was really interesting to see the band's perspective on how much hate they've received over the years. And they said 90% of the stuff that came through, even Chad Kroeger, the frontman of this iconic Canadian hard rock and pop and whatever else you want to call them band, he said that a lot of those words broke through his shield, and I don't blame him. If it feels like everybody is against you, it must be extremely hard to be confident and write songs in the studio.
Hannah was the quintessential sleepy little farm town.
Because there's not much going on, it's really easy to get in trouble.
I learned a lot of fun factoids throughout, and I like that they were able to include interviews with all of the band members, both present and past, because they did go through a couple of drummers early on. To see a band literally from bumfuck nowhere, Canada, actually make it is inspiring. I don't care how you feel about their music or them as musicians, as people, whatever. Their story is one to kind of marvel at, because it's like, how did this band sell more than 50 million albums worldwide? Like I said, the first half of the doc is paced pretty well. I do think we got a lot of interesting information about the band's rise, how they kind of promoted themselves, the hunger, the insatiable hunger that they felt, passing out CDs, driving all over Canada throughout this harsh terrain, and just trying to make it. This band put in the blood, sweat, and tears, and if you think that they just all of a sudden flipped the commercial switch, there it is, we're selling 10 million copies of All the Right Reasons, then think again. I'm getting heated just thinking about all of the hate that they've received over the years. I can't bear it, my soul! The seats in the Arthouse cinema are already not super comfortable, but I understand. It's a small operation. I like going to the place. It's a good establishment, and I like to watch a lot of indie flicks there, and sometimes weird stuff like this. But an hour and 45 minutes of this documentary and the songs that they played exclusively for the theater audience afterwards, of which we were the only ones that stuck around, I just have to say that it kind of felt like I was there for like 3 hours instead of just an hour 45.
quiet the way I wanted to be. Tell me what you want.
For you to be quiet.
Here's the part where John rants about what he did not like and what was missing from the Nickelback documentary, because yes, there was a lot missing. The tone and the familiar beats that the documentarian and the band themselves are trying to hit, they only work, I think, for so long because it feels like they're stretching paper thin, this information that they're giving us, and they kind of spoon feed a little bit there, spoon feed some more, and they just glaze over an entire decade of their career in the process. Every album leading up to All the Right Reasons, they went into detail, showing them in the studio, showing behind the scenes, writing, how they got signed to Roadrunner Records with Silver Side Up and The State, and reissuing their album The Curb. And after that, we just kind of hit fast forward all the way to Get Rollin', which came out, if I'm not mistaken, in 2022?
That sounds like some very strange form of torture.
Of course, they took a lot of time out to talk about health issues within the band, which I thought was really well done for the most part. I had no idea the extent of both Mike and Daniel, their drummer, Daniel Adair, the extent of their medical history, the problems that had arisen, and Mike had a stroke at like age 40, and Daniel literally couldn't use the right side of his body, mainly the arm that he used to play the drums. He tried to quit Nickelback, and they were like, no, dude, we're sending you to rehab instead. So I thought that spark and the fact that they are a family, they're very down-to-earth as a band, I love that we got to peek behind the curtain. That being said, Dark Horse, anyone? That was an album that had like a lot of hits on there. This Afternoon, Gotta Be Somebody. I mean, come on, there were hits galore, and it's not like their other albums that came after were just so unsuccessful that they can't even mention them. They took a really long time out, and the pacing just got really wonky and off as they started skipping station to station. Like, here's this story, here's the parents of Chad and Mike, and they're throwing everybody in, but they're not taking us in a chronological timeline. They're not giving us dates on screen. And there's moments where this documentary could have used some captions because I have no idea what the hell Chad was saying. Anyways, the complete lack of airtime for the albums Dark Horse, Here and Now, No Fixed Address, and, Feed the Machine. See? I'm a real fan. It's like 2010's Nickelback didn't exist. And not that I'm the biggest defender of that time period of the band. God knows. No Fixed Address is just, mediocrity in a bucket. But I honestly thought Feed the Machine and its title track, Coin for the Ferryman, there were some good bangers on there. Throughout the experience in the cinema, some of the fans were singing along to the songs, which is fine, but a lot of the people were very drunk. In this Arthouse theater, they serve alcohol, and the people were leaving like every 10 minutes. And at first I was like, oh, they're just getting up to pee, and then they kept doing it. I'm like, oh my God, they're pounding drinks out there.
Something happened. I can't remember what triggered it. But Chad just blew up in the dressing room, and Mike's just like, suck it up, you know? I don't care what anyone thinks about me.
I'm sorry, I just have this uncontrollable rage that I feel when people talk during movies and are on their phones, and the girl dropped her phone. I counted 7 times. 7 times that a phone's just going. Back to the documentary itself, it kind of felt like it faked us out with endings 4 or 5 times, I counted, and it just started to get like psychological warfare. Like, are you playing yourselves out, or are we just keeping this thing rolling forever? Overall, am I mad, sad, happy, or somewhere in between that I attended this screening? And I have to say, I do think it was worth it, despite some of the insanity that surrounded it with the unruly fans. That kind of added to the experience, and it kind of explained why Nickelback have the reputation they do. Maybe it's the fans more than them, but we all just want to be big rock stars, and as far as this rock star documentary goes, I'm gonna give it a light 3 out of 5, and a semi-half-hearted recommendation. Maybe you skip around and check out some of the clips from it, because it actually is pretty interesting.
But just play it to you, and he grabbed my acoustic. I heard it, I'm like, oh, it sounds like a pretty good song. Like, I didn't go, oh, smash hit. And I remember my wife was up in the in the loft of our house there, and she's like, "That's a hit."
For a documentary called Hate to Love Nickelback, I do wish that they had focused a little bit more on what the hate actually was. I mean, yeah, they talked about some of the music critics. They had a couple of people come on, but for the most part, they were just like, oh, there were memes everywhere. But now the kids on TikTok love them. Nickelback, you may not be that deep or that serious, but I salute you. I appreciate you for what you are. Let me know your thoughts on the doc if you've managed to catch it in the comments down below, or just any thoughts that you have on the trailer, the band at large. Any thoughts are welcome. Please hit that like button. Check out more of my Nickelback content on screen, and I'll see you next time.